Let's be realistic. The sedentary life, is it catching up with you? Are you starting to feel aches and pains where you didn't before? Are you starting to feel a certain amount of burnout mentally, and that translates over into physically as well? Are you feeling overwhelmed with stress and so forth? Welcome to Creative Cynergy, where wellness and creativity meet to help you get healthier and more productive. I'm your host, Coach Sin, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that is not always discussed in creative circles, but it is becoming more prevalent, especially in today's day and age, as health and wellness become more on the forefront of people's minds. And when your mind and body work in synergy, they are stronger together. So we're going to dive right into exactly how your health impacts your creative output and discuss some of the tips that you can take to help maintain your health throughout the longevity of your career. Let's dive in. So let's be honest, most authors, designers, IT professionals, and so forth, people who sit for a living, are not exactly looking at health and fitness the same way a bodybuilder would, where they are tracking everything meticulously because there's only a matter of weeks before they get on stage for their next competition. When we're doing creative work, we are focused on creative work. But let's be realistic. The sedentary life, is it catching up with you? Are you starting to feel aches and pains where you didn't before? Are you starting to feel a certain amount of burnout mentally, and that translates over into physically as well? Are you feeling overwhelmed with stress and so forth? I pose that question because I know that I've been affected by those same things. And the reason that I put together this podcast initially and some of the other products that I have out, including some of my guides and courses, is because I wanted to address that specifically for the creatively sedentary, those of us who have professional careers centered around being creative, but we sit for hours on end. And in that vein, the sedentary lifestyle does actually catch up with you after a while if you don't take steps to intercede on what that impact does to your body and your overall health and wellness. So, for example, most writers spend hours at a time sitting in front of a computer. And let's face it, our posture is not the greatest. It may start out that way when you first sit down, put your fingers on the keyboard, but after a while you start to slouch down and you lose all track of maintaining the proper upright position because you are just caught in flow, which is great. But as the more time you spend sitting like that and not addressing these problems, the more it's going to affect that creative output. And that's something we're trying to make sure doesn't happen. We want to maintain our creative flow without burning out, without feeling pain, and just being able to get more productive throughout our day and well into our lives. We don't want what we do for a living to impact the rest of our lives either. As much as we are passionate about finishing our projects, your health shouldn't come as a price tag to that. So I know, at least for me, I found myself feeling the effects of sitting all day, especially in my lower hips and, the neck, even in my wrists. I started to feel the negative effects of sitting all day, and I wanted to find ways to address that. So if you're anything like me, and I know that you are, otherwise you would have tuned out by now, we're going to dive into exactly how we're going to fix those things so that you can continue your career relatively pain-free. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's going to be you're going to be completely pain-free or anything like that, but we are going to find ways that you can address the things that are bothering you so they don't get progressively worse over your career. Now, the second part of having whole body health is the mindset. Every writer knows and every creative knows that everything stems from your mind that initially. Now, part of it might be, you might want to be poetic and say it comes from your heart and soul, but the initial idea of whatever project you're working on is going to spring forth from your mind. But if you're not feeling your best, your mind is going to be cloudy and your imagination is going to suffer for it. Your flow, as we said, is going to suffer because you cannot maintain that consistent mental clarity that you initially started with that project with. That spark of an idea that got you excited is now starting to feel a little bit worn down because you can't think clearly because you're in pain, or you feel lethargic, or you're stressed out. Any number of these health issues can bog down the brain and impact your creative output. Mental clarity is so important when you're creating, but when you're not sleeping right and you're not eating right, and you're not feeling well, that mental clarity becomes clouded and foggy. So what we want to do is make sure that one of our most precious assets, the mind, actually is taken care of alongside the rest of the body. Because when you can't focus, your motivation is gone. You lack the will to continue on, and you just want to go and sit in front of the TV and veg out, or what have you. So you wind up abandoning whatever project you're working on, and that novel or that piece of art just sits there and it stays unfinished because you don't have the mental clarity and the energy even to get back to finishing it the same way, with the same emphasis and passion that you originally had when you first started it. So we want to tackle that immediately. So we've talked about physical, we've talked about mental, but let's not forget the emotional toll that comes with being a creative entrepreneur, professional, or even if it's a hobby for yourself. So there's a reason that writers are always shown as burnouts on TV and movies. And it's because it's a trope where, because we sit inside all day and we're working upwards of 14 hours a day, we're disheveled and we look like hell, and we haven't slept. That's sort of comes with a grain of truth. But again, we're not the walking zombies that most people believe that we are. Just the same as I live in Las Vegas, and everyone has a specific mindset when it comes to the people who live, work, and play here. And it's not at all like the movie Hangover. It's actually real life. And the same thing can be said of writers and creatives who are feeling the strain of their productivity because the body is not cooperating with the mind in synergy, as I said. So between the deadlines and the editing and, the rest of your life coming down on you, you start to feel a little bit overwhelmed, and then that energy starts to get zapped. Alongside of that is also poor nutrition. Poor nutrition plays a huge role in your energy and how you are more productive throughout the day. Because if you're just snacking all day on high carb, like bagels or donuts, you grab a bag of chips in the afternoon, all of that is a quick hit. They are called simple sugars, and they impact your energy in a way that it spikes you and gets you like a little burst of energy for maybe a half hour if you're lucky, but then you come crashing down on the back end of it. So couple that with your body's in pain and you feeling the mental anguish, as we said before, that all culminates into burnout. And I'm sure at one point in your creative career, you felt burnout before, and it's not fun. It is not fun because on one end, you feel like you just want to lay down and forget everything that's going on. But being the creatives that we are, more often than not, we feel guilty for doing so. So even though while we're trying to relax and put everything out of our head that we need to get done, the other part of our brain is feeling that guilt that we want to get up and finish it. So we don't really relax either. And not being able to calm down in such a way and tune out, that will also impact sleep, which in turn, impacts physicality, mental, and emotional. So it's really no surprise if you get to the nitty-gritty of it, that more writers and creatives are starting to look for ways to combat some of these issues that are plaguing their creativity. And that is exactly why this podcast was born, and my channel on YouTube as well. I was a health and fitness competitor and trainer for over 12 years. I've been a writer for 20, and I wanted to add those two things together to help my fellow artists and writers and makers to get healthier and more productive, because I've been there, I've done that, and I've gone through the other side to help you to get to where you want to be with your goals. And it all starts with the foundation, and that foundation is your mind and body. Like I said, working in synergy to get you to the goals that you're after in your creative career. So you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that's a lot to overcome. I didn't realize sitting all day for a career, and on top of that, you sit to eat dinner, you sit to watch TV, and so forth. Sitting, I didn't realize sitting that much, how much it actually impacts my physicality, my mentality, and my emotional well-being. And so now you might be wondering to yourself, well, exactly what can I do to combat that? Well, lucky for you, you found this podcast because I have the answers for you. In this particular episode, we're going to break down a few small details that you can start to input into your daily activities now. And then we can build on that consecutively with other episodes. But the thing we want to do right now is start to lay a foundation to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. And it doesn't do anyone any good to just try to just jump into being perfectly healthy. That if you try to go cold turkey on, say you want to stop smoking or whatever, or stop eating junk food, if you try to go cold turkey or do it too quickly, inevitably it's going to backfire and you're going to fall back into old patterns. So what we want to do is start breaking the patterns and putting in new patterns to replace the things that you did before that weren't necessarily the best for you. So along those lines, and before I dive into some of the things you can start doing to help your health and wellness, if you're looking for a jumping off point, I have an absolutely free guide on my website. It is called the Healthy Habits Toolkit, and it has everything that you need to start your own blueprint on your road to wellness. So it covers movement, mindset, nutrition, sleep, and it's basically just a jumping off point so you can start to understand how these things impact your creativity and what you can do to take steps to actually start turning all of that around. It is absolutely free. You just go to my website, cynthiavespia.com/healthy habits toolkit. The link will be in the description. It's absolutely free, but it's a way for you to go at your own pace and to start really focusing in on developing your mind and body as a whole body tool for your creative health and wellness. And it's specifically designed for creatives, writers, and graphic designers and so forth. It's not a cookie cutter, a fitness program or anything like that. It's a tool for creative professionals to help them balance work and wellness. But what can you do today to start implementing some changes in your life? Well, before I even give you the tips, you have to have the right mindset. We talked about mindset before and how that impacts your creativity. Well, in order to start making changes, you have to be willing to change. There's been times before where I've tried to help somebody through a health challenge or something like that, and they just are not open to hearing what I have to say, mostly because they feel like it's too hard or they are not ready to change. So it is up to you to want to change and want to start using these tips that I'm about to lay out as a foundation for your whole body health, because otherwise this is going to go in one ear and out the others. But I'm hoping that what I'm hoping with this channel and this podcast at all is that you start to learn how to take care of yourself, because we need your art in this world, and we don't want it to be impacted by any type of negative physical ailment or pain, burnout, lack of sleep. We don't want it to be impacted by any of that. We want your specific art, whatever you like creating. We need you, and we need you to do it in your best efforts. So these are the ways you can start offsetting the impact that sitting all day has on your body and your mind. The first thing you're going to do is break the sitting cycle. So what does that mean? What does that look like for you? Well, as I said before, sometimes we get so caught up in the work we're doing, we forget to eat, let alone get up and walk around. But it's really important that you don't sit all day, because it impacts your body physically in so many ways that you would be almost scared to learn the impact that sitting all day takes on the body. So what you can do to start breaking up that amount of time that you're sitting is just set a little timer. Every 30 to 60 minutes, you're going to get up and you're going to move around a little bit. Even if you're, say you work in an office space and you're in a cubicle and you can't really leave that area, just get up and stay right there and just do a little bit of movement. You can walk in place, stretch it out, do some air squats. Don't worry about what you're going to look like next to your neighbor, because first of all, just tell them what you're doing and why, and maybe get them involved as well, because, let's spread the word here and let's get everybody working healthy and smart. But if you can, start taking walking breaks. You would be surprised, how that impacts your creative flow, especially if you are in an office setting all day. If you set a timer or make sure that you go at a specific time each day, the same time, or at least get it in. It doesn't even have to be the same time, but that helps you to stay consistent. When it is the same time, it helps you to be like, oh, it's walking time. So you get out. You get outdoors, you get in the fresh air, you get sunlight on you. Sunlight's so important for immunity and overall health. And again, it breaks up sitting in your chair all day so that you have movement. And when you get back to your desk, say you walk for maybe, a couple of minutes even. It doesn't have to be like that long of a journey. You just walk around the block or the building or what have you. And when you get back to your desk, you're going to feel refreshed. The other thing that you're going to want to do to break up the impact of your creative positioning is you're going to move with intention. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's going to be, like I said, stretching. Stretching is very important to get blood flow and to make sure that you're not always locked in a structured position sitting. Like I said, the ergonomics of most chairs are not right. Most people don't know how to set up their office space so that they are sitting in a proper way that protects your back, neck, and so forth. So what you're going to want to do is stretch throughout the day so that you keep your neck, your low back, and your knees and so forth. You want to keep everything loose and pliable. One of the biggest complaints from sitting all day is that your low back hurts. And it's actually not stemming from your low back in general. It is a tightening of the hips and the hamstrings from that seated position when you're stuck in almost that L shape. That's what starts to tighten the muscles, and why your back feels like it's out of whack is because everything is actually pulling forward. So what you want to do is to make sure that you're not locked in that position for hours at a time. So start to implement desk stretches. And again, you can just stand up in place, or if you work from home, you can roll out a yoga mat right there at your desk and do a couple of stretches there on your back, or get into some kind of a flow. Like the cat-cow stretch is a great one to loosen up the back and the hips so that you start to feel more mobile and flexible. Now let's talk about sleep. Sleep is so very important because that is when your body starts to replenish itself. It flushes out toxins. It starts to repair any damage that's been done throughout the day. Now, if you're not getting deep REM sleep, you are robbing yourself from those healing properties, and your body's not going to adapt in a way that it's supposed to. Think of somebody who has a concussion or a head injury or even an illness, and they don't get the right sleep. The rest of the day, they are feeling sluggish and they're out of tune with their body because the mind actually didn't get to rest and reset to the way it's supposed to, the way that it's meant to during sleep. So even though I know that you sometimes some of us who work late at night, we get caught up into whatever project we're working on, and we want to work well into 4 o'clock in the morning, try to not do that. Try to put a pin in it, and you can always come back to it the next day, but you want to start winding down and keeping a specific sleep schedule so that you can rest and get refreshed and recharged and reset your body and mind for the next day. Because if you start burning the midnight oil, as they say, you're actually going to start burning your brain too, and that leads to burnout. And that's something that we're trying to avoid. So the important thing is to get enough sleep, but to also get deep and restful sleep. And that's going to be when your body starts to repair itself and repair the mind. And you'd be surprised how refreshed you feel the next day. And that means limiting electronics at night, limiting any kind of caffeine drinks, because writers and creatives, we love our coffee, right? So start to like swapping that out for like an herbal tea or something like less caffeinated, so that you can really get to bed and get to sleep. It shouldn't be a time, and I know this has happened to me before, you try to sleep and your mind wanders still, because our minds are always active and they're always trying to find that next storyline or that next to solve that problem, right? Well, on whatever we're working on. So the mind's trying to race and scramble and figure out what the next steps are, even though your body's probably saying it's time for sleep. Well, one of the best ways to get good sleep is to exercise, but not right before bed. You'd be surprised if you work out first thing in the morning how tired you are by the time the nighttime comes, because you are burning calories throughout the day. And that's especially true if you incorporate some of the other tips that I told you, which are, to get up and move around, to stretch, and then also to follow a sound nutrition plan, which we're going to get deeper into that in some of the other episodes. So I hope you keep coming back to Creative Cynergy to learn more tips and tricks on that end. But sleep, very important for the recovery phase and to get your mind clear and not, to avoid burnout in general. So as creatives and as people, we have a lot going on in our lives. And that's especially true if your creative profession is not the way that you pay the bills. You also have a 9-to-5. On top of that, you have your home life. So you're juggling a lot of things. And inevitably, stress is going to affect you in some way, shape, or form. None of us are immune to that. But there are ways that you can combat that to make sure that stress doesn't overload your body and you get what's called stress sick, because that's actually a thing. That you can get so wound up and so caught up in thinking about something that's going to happen or has happened in a way that it really just folds you up into the fetal position and you can't continue with the day. So we don't want to ever get to that level, because not only does it shut down your creativity, it shuts down everything. So when the stress starts to get too much, one of the ways that you can combat that is to write it out. As writers, we know the power of words and how getting them out onto a page can actually feel cathartic. For my other creative professionals who are not exactly in tune with that and they find creativity in different outlets, actually getting a journal and filling that journal with everything that's going through your racing mind, it gets it out of your head and it gets it onto the page, essentially where it can't hurt you anymore. And you'll find in the ritual of writing, that it helps you to process more and easier what is going on in your head, because in your head, it's a lot of jumbled thoughts. So as you start to focus more on those thoughts and hone in on them as you are writing them out, it helps you to, like I said, process it and get it out of you and get it on the page. And you'll be surprised how much that helps you to feel better. And then as you go back and maybe reread some of these journal pages, you're going to feel like, where was my head when I was writing that? I know that that's happened to me before. So it's important to be able to have some kind of outlet that helps you to find some kind of stress relief. If journaling is not your thing, I like to work out. It helps me to focus on moving my body rather than being caught in my mind. It takes all of the pressure off of my mind because I'm just focusing on what torture I'm inflicting on my body throughout my workouts. But, it could be anything, whatever, if you like to dance to music or karaoke to music, music's a great healer as well. Whatever you find that can put you into a more relaxed and soothed state. It could be a hot bath. It could just be meditation, anything, but start to develop a ritual that gets you out of that heavy, stressful thought pattern. And it breaks it up in a way that you can let it go, because you never want it to become too overwhelming that it absolutely shuts you down, because that can lead to a lot of bigger problems down the road. So get a handle on it now. So those are just a couple of tips to help you start to develop healthy habits. Like I said, if you want a whole toolkit on healthy habits, you can go to my website and download that for free. The link's in the description, as I said. But you also don't have to do all of these at once, because that might also feel a little bit overwhelming. And it's too many things to choose from. So maybe just choose, a stress relief ritual, or to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. Just pick one of them that you want to start implementing into your day to day, and see how that helps you to feel more mentally clear, more restful. You're more energized, and then you can build from there. Because what I'm trying to do with these tools for you, to give you them in like bite-sized little small actionable tips for day to day, we want to build momentum. Because like I said before, if you try to do everything all at once, it's never going to work out, because it's going to be overwhelming, and it's almost like shocking the system. You're trying to do too much too fast. And it just becomes one more thing that you have to do on this long list of items that you already have to do. But if it's just a small little tweak to your day, that's easy, right? So, if you're a writer or some kind of creative professional, and you've been feeling a little bit off, and, physically, mentally, spiritually even, know that you're not the only one out there. And that is exactly why this podcast exists, and why I'm starting to develop more tools for you to use, so that we don't have to choose between creativity and well-being. It's all about balancing work and wellness together, because when the mind and body work in synergy, they are stronger together. So that was going to be the show for today. I hope something in here helped you. And if it did, and if you are implementing some of these tips throughout your day, and you find yourself feeling a little bit more at ease or more energized, please drop me a line. Let me know what tip that you took on and how it's helping you, and what else you would like to learn. Because, hey, we are going to start on this road to wellness together. And I hope you come back and join me on this journey, because it's all about maintaining our creative lifestyle, but without burnout or pain, and just getting more healthier and more productive. If you like this episode, please share it with a fellow writer or creative who needs to hear it as well, because our community is special, and when we engage off of each other, it helps to grow beautiful things. So that's Creative Synergy, and I'm Coach Sin. We'll talk to you next time.